Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I, man, here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Rovi and Mscribe, and today we're going to be talking about DMT updates.
Really a singular DMT update. Well, actually, many updates.
Well, this is a huge update, dude.
I know, but you said update. So typically we like to, I guess, get like our overview analysis of what's happening in the ecosystem, who's building.
Yeah.
There's actually some very, very, very interesting projects that we need to talk about soon.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're kind of like still in like their stealth development phase, and we've been like clued in on like their designs and shit, and it's truly fascinating stuff. And it's exactly what I was hoping to see as far as like, ecosystem developers, creators, artists, whatever.
Yeah.
Really pushing the boundary as far as like showcasing why DMT is like an important aspect of consideration when you're trying to create something new in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah.
And yeah, can't wait to get to those. But today we're talking about a lot of the technical, I guess, additions to the DMT space, right? Specifically, Mscribe and some new protocol updates to the DMT framework itself,
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And some indexer support, stuff like this, all to enable like this fair and balanced minting process, right?
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. So when we launched DMT back in November, there was like people inscribed the first token, NAT.
Yeah.
It went crazy, blocked out in a week. Then Natcat's guy came in and he was like, you know what, we can do art on Bitcoin or art from Bitcoin. And it was like, check this out, guys. And we were like, that's cool. And then that blocked out in like hours.
Correct. Yeah, we were already like toying with the idea. We always knew that the framework had to be has to incorporate non-fungibility as well. Right?
And there was like a straight month of people just minting like DMT tokens. Like if you went to Genie Data, the only thing that you would see is like a giant tap square.
It was pretty massive.
On what was minting for like an entire month.
It was like 5 times as big as anything BRC20s was outputting, right?
Yeah. And
largely because those were all DMT deployments and mints and stuff like that. So yeah, like the UNAT craze was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Right?
So then I guess a few actors, one actor, many actors, I don't know, they started minting these DMT tokens and basically pumping it and then just like hoarding a bunch of the inscriptions to themselves or doing something weird. And so all of a sudden, all these like deployments were owned by like a handful of like wallets.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, this isn't a good distribution method for like artists. And, artists also need to like put food on the table as well. And so they wanted other methods to like, make money from like their art. And so then the fair mint distribution didn't become as fair as it should have been.
Yeah.
And now we need a provably fair distribution with mechanics that creators can sort of like list and require for a mint.
Correct. Yeah.
And so let's talk about some of those mechanics. So what you can do with this update is called privliged authorization. What you can do is, as a creator, you can create your art on DMT, and you can set Mscribe as an authority. And then once you do that, go to Mscribe, and then there's a bunch of settings for your token. And in those settings, you can say one wallet or 1 mint per wallet. Here's the price. You can set different phases, like a whitelist phase, an open mint phase, different like phases, and then you can launch it. And then so based on the phase, you could have the ability to inscribe these assets. And if you limit it to 1, then it's going to be completely reserved to that person who selects that block and pays for it. And it's going to be like a whole PvP real-time experience. So basically, when you and I are minting on the same page, we can see each other's like cursor. Yeah. And then I can see which blocks that you're kind of hovering over, and then when it starts, then you'll be able to like claim your block.
Correct.
PvP style.
Yeah. So that's gonna be interesting. So that's kind of like the crux of what we've been up to, I guess, the last month. Preparing Mscribe for this whole new minting experience that Web3 hasn't had before, right? Because we feel like, we want the minting process to be as close to, I guess, the Bitcoin blocks as possible, right? We want that feeling to occur, right? Whenever we don't want it to be as soulless as just pushing a mint button on Magic Eden or OpenSea or whatever. And I receive a digital asset in my wallet in exchange, right? In the DMT space, the non-arbitrary token space, something different is happening. we're literally tapping into the blocks themselves to generate and manifest a new digital creation, right? That is what DMT represents. We're leveraging the roots of that on-chain data, and by interacting with that through the DMT protocol and these UNAT deployments, immediately after this new asset emerges, right? So we wanted the experience to be, almost have a tangible feel to it. So
yeah.
I wish we could demonstrate that right now, but we can't. So what we've done is we've got a big public test coming up, and within a day, like a 24-hour time frame, I'd say.
If you're watching this, the test should be happening in at least a few hours,
imminently,
at most,
according to the plans of today, because this is being recorded like a day before.
Correct.
So our target is within 24 hours. We want this to be like as big of a public test as possible before we actually deploy this live for the first UNAT deployment, which is...
Yeah, so we're going to be working with King.
Yeah.
So this partnership was announced maybe like a couple of weeks ago. And so King has they have really cool art. And let me see if I can kind of show you what the art looks like.
Yeah, as of right now, the name of the collection is Redacted, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have all been hearing about that, Redacted, but that's not actually going to be the name. The name hasn't been announced yet, but maybe it will be by the time this video comes out. So definitely follow this Twitter account if you want to know all the real-time details of this launch, right?
Yeah,
but
so
here it is.
Here's what the art looks like. It's pretty cool. And a lot of the stuff that has been shown publicly is not all the stuff that they have, because we've seen it privately, and there's way more iterations in this.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool collection. It has all the right it checks all the right boxes as far as what do you want to see from digital art in this Bitcoin space, right?
Yeah.
So, this has been art that's been developed for, I think, a couple of months now, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And then the actual technical components of enabling this, because, King took a stance here that not many would, right? A lot of people in this market, artists, creatives, whatever, people, they're just looking to jump on the next big narrative, right? So there was a big gravitational force for a lot of artists to go focus on runes.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how I can create a collection and deploy a rune token and capitalize on that hype and that momentum. King did not do that. King stood firm.
Yeah.
In the conviction that digital matter is important, right? DMT theory has real application to the art space, right? And in order to actually stay firm on that conviction, you had to basically delay your launch for a month for us to get these technical infrastructure components laid down.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So that's quite the commitment. That's quite the risk, and from this creator's perspective, right? It's not following what the invisible hand is telling you to do.
Right.
Instead, it's you know what? Stay true to your conviction and actually build out a primitive for future creators and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of something there, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to call it? Respect, just potential glory at stake. Considering this could be a forever feature to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This is the first of its kind, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Leveraging DMT provides a new vector of creativity for creators, and I think they gravitate towards that. Right, because once you have an open canvas and it's boundless potential, it's not as cool as when you have some limitations, some restrictions, like Bitcoin restrictions. And so when you have Bitcoin producing these patterns and you're leveraging those patterns, it feels like it's a new thing that you can kind of interact with. And I think a lot of creators gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I think so too. So we have a lot more creators who are reaching out to us. They want to do something similar. So as of right now, it's kind of a wait and see moment for all these creators to see how this launch goes. So this is why we need you guys' participation in this test. So let's talk about the test.
Yeah. So the test is, if you want to join the test, we're going to send a link on Discord, on Inscribe's Discord. So if you want to partake, jump into the Discord, click on that link in the announcements, and then you'll be taken to Inscribe testing environment.
Which is basically it's going to be the experience of minting a UNAT deployment in its phase structuring, right?
Correct. Yeah, so just imagine it's a splash page that'll tell you which phase that we're about to embark on. And then once that block is mined, that splash page is gone, you'll see a bunch of squares. And think of the squares as a PvP arena.
Yeah.
where you're basically competing with everybody else to claim a block.
Yeah.
Right. And it's real time. And so when you'll be able to see other people clicking on blocks because it's real time connection.
Yeah. Remember, each block is unique, right? I mean, these are non-fungible, right? So depending on which block you select, that's going to be the on-chain data component that renders your asset, right? And that's the unique feature to all of these unique non-arbitrary token collections, art collections specifically, because they're leveraging some form of the on-chain, whether it's the block height.
Yeah.
Some go so crazy as to write these scripts that check the nonce value to generate random traits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's at the discretion of the creator how to incorporate all of this.
Correct.
But that's what makes it interesting, right? You don't know. You're confronted with a wall of block choices, right?
Yeah.
They all look the same, right? They're all the same size.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes them different is their block height.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And of course, the internal data within that. Right?
That represents a block height. Yeah.
So you don't really know what you're gonna get, right? But each one is unique, and they have like an already predetermined output value as far as like what's going to be rendered.
Yeah. So what exactly are we testing? We're testing the ability to do phases. The ability to limit a mint per wallet. We're testing a new pricing structure. And so this test is going to be very inexpensive. It's maybe like you'll spend $1 for some of these mints just to test the payment mechanism.
Plus whatever the Bitcoin fee, because we're going to hopefully we can capture Bitcoin at its at a friendly time.
Yeah.
I think we might be able to, because a lot of this pre-rune hysteria is kind of like dwindling down a bit. People are starting to realize like this pre-rune stuff is largely vaporware, right? So it's like, let's settle down and let's actually wait for the protocol to deploy. So we might be able to capture a good window here for where we're not getting eaten alive by Bitcoin itself, right?
Yeah, and the whole point is that you can purchase these mints. You can't get front run. There's no sniping. There's nothing of that sort is going to be happening because it can't happen. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but regardless, some of these. So we're gonna have to test the pricing. So we'll probably end up doing like a $1 or $2 or $3 at most.
Yeah.
Mint cost for these test mints.
Mm-hmm.
But we've decided to incorporate some type of an asset here, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So because these you're going to be inscribing DMT assets, we decided to point to this asset that's going to be inscribed. And so all the minters of this test will get this asset, and it's just like a token to indicate that you partook in this this testing thing, because this is huge, right? We haven't seen anything like this on Bitcoin yet. The ability to have like this balanced mint method where you don't have to inscribe all the assets to yourself, and then create a bunch of PSBTs and then list them on some marketplace and then do some sort of launch. This is a completely different style of launching a token.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into this, so we want to reward everybody who's helping us, get this system off the ground. So that includes, you contributors. You guys are going to help us test this out. So this is it. You're going to get one of these. So I think we're going to mirror exactly the supply of Redacted, which it's a 10K collection, right? Yeah. Roughly, not 10K exactly, because again, it's not arbitrary.
Yeah, it's 10,080.
10,000 and change, because it's 5 periods of difficulty adjustment periods on Bitcoin's history, according to the pattern that has been chosen. So that's how many of these will exist. So that's how many blocks are going to be claimable, testable, et cetera, et cetera. So details in our Discord. Definitely hop in, guys. We need as much help as we can get.
Yeah, and one last note here is that King said that if you interact with this test, you'll be added to the phase 2 of the whitelist. Okay,
cool. That's important too.
So basically, if you have one of these, you'll have access to the real phase 2 whitelist. Yeah.
So if you missed the snapshot, which happened yesterday for Bitcoin Babbies, that's phase 1. So that window has closed. It doesn't matter if you acquire a Bitcoin Babby for this launch event. So the next best bet is phase 2, right? So the only way to really get in now at this point in this whitelist phase is by testing, right? Yeah. So definitely encourage you guys to do that. Now, get opportunity to get in on this launch and for the Mscribe crown, dude. Because if you didn't notice, there's like an M on that little crown there.
Yeah, let's take a little deeper look here.
That doesn't stand for Metamorphosis or Mighty Morphing Power Rangers. Yeah. It stands for Mscribe, dude.
Or Mario.
Oh yeah, or Mario or whatever. That's us, dude. This is our little thing.
Yeah.
So this is gonna go down in the history books, dude. This is the first time Inscribe has ever like produced an asset, really.
That's true.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So we wanted it to commemorate this this point in time, right? Where
Yeah. Shout out to Pepe God for putting this together.
yeah, always Pepe the Lord,
Our Lord.
putting together a sensibly affordable 3D asset for the Bitcoin block space.
Yeah.
And still have it shine. And hopefully one day we'll have like some Bitmap OS utility, right? I can actually slap this freaking thing on my avatar one day, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's always going to be our goal. Anything 3D, it's going to exist in the metaverse space on Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then here's a tweet that confirms there's only one way to get a whitelist now, and this is it. And so this is where they point to becoming a tester.
Okay, well, one last detail I think that's critical. What's the pricing structure for the phases of the collection? Do you have that outlined somewhere? So you already went over like the promises and token auth and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I went through all the details there. There's going to be 4 phases, I believe, for the redacted mint, and the first phase is like Bitcoin Babbies, and then it gets progressively more expensive up to like maybe like $70 or something. So it's not like crazy.
Yeah, I think like bottom end of the price spectrum is like roughly $30. Top end is I think $80.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's all under $100. So very it's definitely not what do you call that?
Yeah, it's reasonable.
It's definitely not Karma Stone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody here is asking for $1,000 for mint.
Yeah.
Right. And this is these are all unique. Again, DMT native assets. So we're excited. A few days away, man. We're really clocking in overdrive here to make sure this deploys before the halving, right?
Yeah, for sure. So like you were saying, we were definitely excited. This is kind of like a new point in time for the UNAT and DMT ecosystem, because now everyone can set their limits. You don't have to charge for your mints. You can do them for free, but you can set like 1 mint per wallet, right?
Yeah.
And so like this is going to be huge, right? So
yeah, this is going to be leveraged in a lot of ways, and at some point we'll probably leverage it ourselves for some sort of in metaverse game mechanism, right? Because we have experience in building metaverse games, and we want to incorporate any kind of incentive model for participants, right? I'm going to be playing your game. I'm expecting some type of minting activity as a result, right? So now we have a mechanism to kind of like draw up that logic and distribute these assets in a sensible way, right?
Yeah.
In a very controlled and precise manner. So it's happening, dude. So this marks a new page in DMT's history books for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's it for us. If you want to join the testing, definitely join our Discord for Mscribe. Look at the announcements. There's going to be a link in there, and that will take you to the page where the testing is going to begin, and then you'll get added to the whitelist for phase 2. And that's it. I think that covers everything. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.